Well, I tell you what, folks, I never thought in my lifetime I'd witness scenes like this. I've seen them in documentaries from the 1970s in which Britain endured its winter of discontent, where we went without bin collections and all the rest of it, and it 3-day working weeks, and it was pretty bad stuff. I'm afraid now we're getting a sort of insight into how we could eventually end up seeing similar such scenes. British manufacturing leaders are talking about an industrial collapse. Our rush, I'm afraid, for renewables, our reliance upon Putin's gas, which have been brought about, by the way, thanks to this push for unreliable renewable technology. Putin now has his boot placed firmly over the throat of the continent of Europe. And I think it's time to get serious on nuclear and on shale gas, because those windmills that require tons of coal to make and those solar panels, they just aren't enough to power a nation. According to the energy advisor Cornwall Insight, wind typically accounts for about 18% of the nation's power mix. That's dropped to just 2% in the last month. And I'm afraid, all of these activists insulate Britain or infuriate Britain, or rather impoverish Britain, I think they should call themselves. I can't imagine anything more traumatic than watching your mother decline whilst you know that these petulant prats are on the M25, the green extreme, blocking you from getting to a hospital, getting your mother to a hospital, preventing what could have been a minor stroke from turning into full-set paralysis, which it did. Imagine that. I can't imagine what kind of person you'd have to be to get your kicks from preventing trips to the hospital and preventing working people, ordinary working people, from earning a living and seeking to make the lives of the least well-off as difficult as possible. And you know what gets me the most about this offshoot of Stinky Rebellion, or whatever they're called? It's this vegan activist class, right? They tell us that they're doing this to call for Britain to insulate its homes as a measure to lift families out of fuel poverty. Well, frankly, I can't believe the audacity of these people to lecture us all about poverty when the policy prescription that they put forward would immiserate, not insulate Britain. And frankly, I reckon that what we're experiencing in Britain here right now, here today, thanks to our wind farms not blowing, standing motionless day after day, a fire erupting on a cable from France, meaning there's disruptions with supply there, coming out of the pandemic and Russia squeezing supply, which, by the way, I think shows how dangerous it is to be so dependent upon the Russian bear. But I'm afraid it's a sign of things to come. And I'm reminded of the fact that even though President Trump pulled out of the United States climate agreements as far as the Paris Climate Accords are concerned, they were still, under President Trump, on track to meet those targets years earlier than they said they would, basically. And that's down to natural gas, not unreliables. Can you imagine if we'd done that here? If we had an energy boom, like Texas has experienced, for example, with high-skilled jobs. We don't have any of that here. To make matters worse, what we do have are green taxes added onto our bills to pay for subsidising unreliable renewable technology that doesn't even bloody blow in the wind. And this is all going to go on, I'm afraid, as Boris Johnson flies off to New York and tries to convince the world that because the UK, which emits a meagre, and I really do not think this can be stressed enough, a meagre 1% of global emissions, we're immiserating ourselves on a wing and a prayer, went all Jonathan Ross there, for technology that we don't actually have yet. And I'm afraid that from that 2008 climate change target enshrined by Gordon Brown's Labour Party to the net zero by 2050 target put in law by Theresa May, there's been precious little accountability on this, public debate, and no vote on policies that will quite honestly make what we're going through right now look like a walk in the park. We're going to look quite rich right now. Our gas boilers are going to be ripped out and replaced with pricey heat pumps, and the ban on petrol and diesel cars means that we'll need charging points, well, more than we can possibly install, more than most bloody Apple shops have got. I mean, the whole thing is a mess, and ultimately I think serves to, as I say, immiserate, not insulate Britain. But there needs to be a reversal in much of this Panglossian thinking, frankly, because there lies ruin, there lies financial immiseration. And that's what, I'm afraid to say, isn't part of the levelling up that I voted for. Reasoned relies upon grassroots donations from people like yourself that want us to continue producing our high quality, free thinking content. So please do consider clicking the link and donating, no matter how big, no matter how small, because it really does ensure that we can keep on keeping on.